So we were discussing because we had an open discussion about that situation that's going on in Ukraine and in Russia, and then of course the whole geopolitical fallout from all of this recent history. So we were connecting online because we were feeling bad that seeing all of the devotees who were supposed to be brothers and sisters and working in the spiritual United Nations, all of a sudden now they're going down back onto like some bodily platform, and then they're just identifying, oh, I'm Russian, and no, I'm Ukrainian. And so this is a very nice segue to what we're talking about, because we can artificially think, yes, we're not this body. But Prabhupada said, doing it superficially or theoretically is not sufficient. So this situation has really made us and many devotees to reconsider how much are we situated on the platform of the soul. And that's why Prabhupada said it's not enough to say that we're not the body, but we must have to act on the platform of the soul. So because of this such a strong bodily identification, Prabhupada also said 99.9% of the people, all they know is their body and their mind. So you have very small percentage who can understand and to really act on the platform of the soul. It's not that because we're in a process, we're in a religious spiritual institution, and we have some basic information or knowledge from the scripture, that automatically this makes us all transcendentally situated. So this recent situation, all of a sudden emotionally, everyone starts being emotionally affected on this bodily platform because we're identifying with our bodies. And also it says you're identifying with your place of birth. What do they call that? Huh?
Your dash.
Like the motherland. Everyone is like, attached to the motherland. And so, although we're externally acting like we're devotees and we're coming to Holy Dham, but they're coming to the Dham and they're having, Russian class, Ukrainian class, Russian, Vyas Puja, Ukrainian Vyas Puja. It's a madness, because you're forcing a situation where everybody's acting on a total bodily, emotional, materialistic platform. And so the devotees, the senior devotees, they should be helping to elevate the conversation and to purify the situation by reminding everybody and emphasizing how to look at everything from transcendental or soul platform. Because in material platform, Prabhupada said all of these isms are demoniac. Capitalism, democracy, right, communism, all the different isms, right, all the different consciousness and mentality of the people in the material world, it's all demoniac, more or less. And all the different systems of government, Prabhupada said it's all demoniac. Because if we have people in materialistic consciousness with materialistic motivation, and they're just attaching themselves and their people to some particular type of ideology or government, it's still all materially motivated for the most part. So on the material platform, Prabhupada said everything is faulty on the material platform. Nothing is perfect here. Material platform, material consciousness means demoniac qualities. The soul by nature, Prabhupada explained, is sadhu, Satchidananda. It's a part and parcel of Krishna, has all saintly, godly qualities. But because the soul is covered over, because of this asatsanga and all of this materialistic identification, misidentification, therefore that's on that false ego platform where all of these demoniac qualities and desires are manifesting. So there's a pride and arrogance, conceit, everyone thinks they're right, everyone thinks they're better than everybody else, we're jealous, we're envious, so much greed for power, for money, for control, so much lust, so much anger, even they're killing people, hundreds of thousands of people this time. Nobody's really worrying about all of these suffering people from both sides, from all sides. So it's not this country or that country or this ism or that ism or who's right, who's wrong. The whole thing is wrong. The whole thing is faulty. Because it's really a question of who's in material consciousness and who's in spiritual consciousness. So are we acting on and trying to come to spiritual platform and manifest spiritual qualities and understanding and consciousness and behavior? Or it's contaminated, more or less, under modes of material nature. It's all demoniac qualities, more or less. That means everyone has material consciousness, and defective material consciousness means imperfect mind, intelligence, and senses. We make mistakes. We have a cheating propensity. What's the other one? We're prone to be an illusion. So those are all, Prabhupada said, those are all the defects of material consciousness. So that means everyone in material consciousness on bodily platform has all of these defects. So if we're all cheating, more or less, we're all in so much illusion, we have all imperfect mind, intelligence, and senses, which is contaminated, controlled by Maya. This is all defective, it's all faulty. So we cannot come up with some perfect, absolute philosophy like Krishna consciousness, because that's transcendental. So instead of making it, one set of demons is better than the other set of demons, and we have this level of demoniac qualities versus your level of demoniac qualities. It's kind of like a really foolish argument, especially for devotees, because it's not a question of this country or that, or this party or that, or this ism or that. It's a question of, is it spiritual consciousness? Is it spiritual desire? Is it spiritual mentality and behavior and activities, or not? So nobody's right. Everyone has some fault. Everything could be done better. So are there different specifics there? Of course there's different specifics there. But then what is everybody's karma? Right? So there's it's a wide-ranging topic, and because we're meeting many devotees, we're asked the devotee, the other day we asked the question, where are you from? And they almost were afraid to say. And I think, what did the person said? Well, I'm from my wife is from Ukraine, but she has a Russian passport. Right? So they don't know, okay, what if I say I'm from Ukraine? Right? And then if he's pro-Russian, but I have a Russian passport. Right? So the point was how they reacted to this question means that they are dealing with people who are immediately judging them based on which country they're from. And then depending on what is your political position, you're going to either immediately like them or immediately demonize them. As if, whatever the leaders in these countries and all these people are doing is, that we're all responsible for that. Especially as devotees. Whatever your forefathers did, right, it's like, it's our fault. Right? So now they're saying, what is it? In America, they have this movement where they want the white people to pay the black people money because of slavery. So you have white people who have no prejudice, who have no slaves, right? And then they're going to pay money to the black people who are not slaves, but some previous generations they might have been slaves. Does it make any sense? So you're basically paying money from some previous generations before that might have had slaves to people who are not slaves, but previously maybe they had someone in their generation that was a slave, just because of the color of their body. So this is completely bodily consciousness. And then how, if all these philosophies and ideologies and isms, and it's all demoniac, how do you defend any of it? How can we defend any of it? Prabhupada says, if anything that you do that is not for the pleasure of Krishna is sinful activity. So who in any of these governments and in this conflict and war, what decisions are they making that is just for the pleasure of Krishna? So the whole thing is faulty. So to get into this, like, who's right, who's wrong, which demoniac philosophy is better than the other, how contaminated are the mind and senses of these people versus those people, what degree of demoniac qualities do they have versus what are the qualities, the amount of demoniac qualities do these people have. It's unbelievable that devotees are having this type of a conflict based on a purely bodily platform and consciousness with a total misidentification with the place that you're born. I remember when I first started traveling, and I noticed like a lot of people hated people from the United States, and I didn't understand it. I was like, why do they hate you're living in some small town somewhere, right? All of a sudden now you're traveling internationally, right? You don't know that anybody hates. I didn't know anybody hates the United States. Right, and then you're taught to be patriotic and, respect all of your elders and all of the authorities, and they're trying to protect you, and they're trying to, the government is there to help the people, and the police are all good guys, and the military is just fighting for the protection of the people, right? Everybody's brainwashed. And then as we start to go, we realize how badly brainwashed are we. And that's what Prabhupada said. We're all, many places Prabhupada said this anxiety, right? This is the material disease. Many places Prabhupada said that. But in other places, Prabhupada was saying that the bodily concept and misidentification with the body and the family and the place, the country, or the place that you're born, this is the material disease. So that bodily consciousness, attachment to bodily relations, is the root cause of every other sinful desire and activity. Srimad Bhagavatam says like that. So when we were talking about, how do you preach to different people who are so emotionally, caught up on some bodily platform, and maybe they had family, relatives, people killed, so it's a very emotionally disturbed situation. So how do you talk to them? As soon as you remind them about their body or their country, then immediately emotionally they become surcharged by that disturbance, and they lose track of the spiritual perspective. So then when we were discussing through it, because otherwise everyone's okay, well, what research have you done? How much do you understand geopolitically? What are the details historically? What has caused this particular situation? How did everybody act and react based on what they were promising or not promising? I mean, there's so many details that definitely have some effect one way or the other. But most of the information that the people are getting is completely controlled information by their governments, by the, so-called authorities. So everyone, more or less, in bodily platform is completely brainwashed. And then even if you present one side or the other side, they say, no, that's a fake news, that's a disinformation. So you can't even bring any type of detail to the conversation, because what is fake video? What is fake news? What is the real report? What is the false report? So we're material life, everyone's already bewildered due to Maya. And now social media, mainstream media, all of the governments, it's control of the narrative, control of the minds, control of the people. There's this all type of manipulation is going on there. So as soon as you start to discuss it, I saw when I was preaching in Latvia, that we had a lot of Russian devotees there, but then also some Latvian devotees came. So when we started to discuss it, they had just escaped from Ukraine. They had just come out of Ukraine, out of the war zone. So when we started to discuss it, they started crying because of what they had just recently gone through. And they were so disturbed with the situation that when you discuss it just kind of analytically or geopolitically, they're so emotionally, affected from what they went through, as well as the propaganda and the brain washing that goes on by every government and all the media, sources. So then it's like you kind of can't win on that platform, because it's reminding everybody of their bodily position and condition and family and the place that they're born. And so that's what makes all of this emotional disturbance. If everyone's emotionally disturbed on a mental, emotional platform, they cannot scientifically analyze, what is valuable information, what is historic information, what seems to be, different causes and effects. They're not able to even understand it because of the over-emotional reaction. So when we were discussing this, then we understood that really when we're discussing with them, instead of bringing their focus onto their body and their family and their place of birth and their country, let's make it more of a focus on the subtle body, because everybody has demoniac qualities on material platform. Doesn't matter where you're from, what country you're from, what language you speak. Everybody has a pride, arrogance, conceit, lust, anger, greed, enviousness. Right? Krishna discusses this in Bhagavad Gita. Material consciousness, people in material consciousness, whether you're from India or Germany or United States or Russia or Ukraine, every single person is fighting with uncontrolled mind and senses. It's not a Russian problem. It's not a Ukrainian problem. It's a human problem. So if we discuss this and not make devotees focus on their body, but more on the subtle body, then you can understand on that platform, none of it is correct. Nobody's right. Prabhupada says the whole thing is faulty on material platform. So now the question is, how do we go from this, get rid of this false ego and purify all of these demoniac qualities, dissolve, get rid of the false ego, purify the consciousness so we come more and more pure, come to the level of the soul. On the soul platform, that's when all godly, saintly qualities will manifest.